Thank you very much for coming today. Appreciate it. I'm Cindy Lamb with Lincoln City Council, and with me is Matt Schulte from the Lincoln Public School Board. I want to thank you for being here, and I think that it's important that there's no doubt that school safety has been on the forefront of many minds since the February 14th shooting in Lakeland, Florida. 3 weeks ago, the City Council heard in this very chamber from parents and a parent group that is concerned with school safety right here in Lincoln. And I listened carefully and worked hard toward alleviating some of their concerns and some of their fears. And as I followed up with the chief of police and with the parents, I worked to try and find solutions that wouldn't be an additional burden to the taxpayer. And I'm pleased to say that I was able to find those solutions. The parents aren't asking for much. They're asking for resource officers in the middle schools, either half or full-time. In other words, either one officer to every school or to every 2 schools. That means 6 to 12 new school resource officers. The city and the school district can make that happen, and we can do it without putting any additional burden on the backs of Lincoln taxpayers. We've done it before. In fact, we had school resource officers in the middle schools until 2010, when the current mayor's budget cut those officers. Well, that can change now, and that should change now, and it's time to put those officers back. Anyone who knows me knows that I strongly believe that safety of the citizens is the #1 priority of government. Also, it's the duty of elected officials and of elected leaders to exercise proper stewardship of the tax dollars that we use, the taxpayer funds that are coming out of the pockets of every person in Lincoln. That's why I'm suggesting that the mayor and city council fund the 6 to 12 school resource officers out of the new revenue, the new money that we're getting from commercial property increased valuations. I also urge Lincoln Public Schools to match that amount. The City Council commits to make this happen. In 2017, commercial property assessments rose around 17%. Although there are still some, the process is still in place for some disputes, when I contacted the assessor's office, I'm told that Lincoln can expect its portion to be somewhere between $2 and $3 million. That's new money being generated by these assessments. I also urge, neither the mayor's office nor any of my colleagues, my Democrat colleagues, have indicated that they have any intention or wish to return that additional money to the taxpayer. And so with that in mind, I am suggesting that we commit $300,000 to $600,000 of those funds to fund 6 to 12 new school resource officers. And I'm suggesting that that's only a small portion of that $2 to $3 million. Not only that, it's not one-time money. This will be recurring money available to fund these officers going forward. In a few minutes, you'll hear from Lincoln School Board member Matt Schulte that Lincoln Public Schools will receive around $32 million more in dollars from a number of sources, including some from those increased valuations. $32 million in additional funds. That gives Lincoln Public Schools certainly the funds to match whatever the city puts in to fund resource officers, and also to fund additional programs that have become increasingly on the forefront, such as programs dealing with mental health issues and so forth. I urge LPS to fund efforts to appropriately address those issues as well. Now, before yesterday, I would have ended with a line that says, hey, from this new money, we can and should provide increased safety to our school children, peace of mind to their parents, with funds that does not additionally burden taxpayers. Well, of course, there are a few more things I need to add at this point. Last night, after I sent notice of this press conference, a story broke in the Lincoln Journal-Star about an agreement to create a government entity to address school safety. I have not seen the agreement, nor been briefed on the agreement. In fact, I didn't even know the agreement was being negotiated. However, I can tell you that we do not need another government entity in order to take these steps to fund school resource officers and safety measures at the Lincoln Public Schools. The City Council and the Mayor and the Lincoln Public School Board have the authority and the money to take the action necessary to increase the safety of our schools without having to have a separate entity, another layer of bureaucracy to take on the task. We sure don't need another government entity that can operate with such lack of transparency as has happened in this particular instance. I don't know why I haven't been briefed as of yet or told that this was being negotiated, but I certainly think that as an elected official, I should have been told, at least brought into the loop at some point. We don't need another government entity that lacks transparency or that increases bureaucracy or that in some way has to manage our money beyond the elected officials that have already been appointed to do so. Now I'd like to introduce Matt Schulte from the Lincoln Public School Board. Thank you.
Let me raise this up here. Good morning. Glad to see all of you here this morning. Like she said, my name is Matt Schulte. I am currently on the Lincoln Public Schools Board of Education. And I just would like to start by saying, first of all, that what I'm going to share this morning is my opinion. It's not the opinion yet of the school board or LPS, but it's my hope. You know, it's difficult to imagine that 20 years ago today was when the Columbine, not 20 years ago this month is when the Columbine shooting happened. It's difficult to imagine it's taken us 20 years to get to this point at which our community agrees again that we need to bring school resource officers back to our school and prioritize school safety in a new way. These last 20 years have been heart-wrenching as we've seen way too many kids killed inside of our public schools. And I'm standing here united with parents, with city council members, and with many people in our community to say, not here, not in Lincoln. We are going to do what we can to make sure that our kids here in Lincoln are have additional safety. It's time for Lincoln Public Schools and the City of Lincoln to prioritize school safety. We were previously on this path with many more police officers in schools, and it's unfortunate that the former superintendent and current mayor decided to remove those officers years ago. The great thing is that this year we can do it. And we can do it without any additional tax dollars from local sources. You see, this year, Lincoln Public Schools will receive $20 million extra in state aid funding. $20 million that doesn't cost Lincoln a dime in any more tax revenue. We can prioritize this $20 to provide the school resource officers that we need. We don't need a levy override to fund SROs. We don't need an additional line to our property tax bill to fund SROs. The money has come. Additionally, on top of the $20 million, there will be at least another $32 million that will come in from local property valuations and additional state and federal sources. LPS is blessed to have that this year. With these state funds, we can easily fund the resource officers that Lincoln desperately needs without raising any new taxes. Lincoln, we can have the resource officers we need, and all we need to do is send a thank you note to our state senators. Isn't that great news for us? I'm excited to see more resource officers. It's similar to City Council. Our boardroom has been packed with people concerned about school safety. And LPS has a good track record of providing good safety measures in our schools. Obviously, one way we could improve is to put more resource officers in our middle schools. Thank you so much.
Take some questions, if anyone has them.
I have a question. So the reason that resource officers were pulled from the middle school was because it was decided that it wasn't the most effective to have them driving back and forth in their car. So do you think re-implementing them is the best solution? Chief Leimeister said there's no one thing will fix all, security or dangers in LPS schools. Do you find that SROs are the best option for keeping students safe?
Well, and I'll address that first then if you want
Sure.
to. So the SROs were in the schools, and there's been a lot of testimony about how the children bond with them and that they're able to know that these are friends, and there's a presence there. And we've seen that presence in other states where a school resource officer was able to thwart someone with bad behavior. And so I think it's certainly an option, and that's what they're asking for. They're just asking for 6 to 12 officers, that half a day or a full day in the Lincoln Public Middle Schools. So I believe it's certainly a function of government to provide that safety and help those parents feel better and feel safer with their children there. And we've been told that there's maybe a 10 or 11-minute response time if there should be an urgent response needed at a school. This lessens that time significantly. So I do believe that the parents are reasonable in what they're asking. Do I think it's the end of the answer? No. As I said, I believe the Lincoln Public Schools, they certainly have the funds. They're talking about social workers and those who can do threat assessments, and I think that's really essential part of it also. Do you have an answer to that?
I guess I would just add that school resource officers isn't the only answer, but it's absolutely a great answer. We need we need school resource officers.
Well, if I understand correctly, the previous proposal with the resource officers wasn't quite as effective because they weren't in all the middle schools. They had to go back and forth. Would your proposal put them in all the middle schools, or still just in some of the middle schools, and they would be traveling back and forth?
Thank you for that question. So what I'm proposing is 300 to 600,000 on the city side, combined with the agreement that we already have with LPS that could provide 6 to 12, and so it would be up to 12. Now those funds are available. All we have to do is expand the agreement that we currently have from high school students to include junior high classrooms, or excuse me, schools.
So they're talking to Chief Leimeister at LPD. He said they're about $100,000 each per year.
Correct.
So do they have the resources to put in, how many middle schools are there? 12?
There's 12,
There's
yep.
12. Do they have the resources to put an officer in all 12 schools?
Does who have the resources? So LPD right now, we would be funding new officers, so they would have to put new officers through the training.
Are there other safety measures that you're also looking at the same time, or are you focusing just on SROs right now?
Well, I think that from my perspective, the city's obligation is to provide safety in the form of law enforcement, and SROs are a natural part of that. I believe that the school district has the proper resources for any mental health treatment or programs that they want to do, and they certainly have the funds to do it. So my proposal has to do with funding what I believe the city should be funding at this point in time.
Another question. Last week we got a cell phone video of an SRO breaking up a fight. Is that an example of an SRO stepping in to protect students and what they could do at these other schools?
You address that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. That's one of the roles that SROs play is to help protect students while they're inside the building. That's an example of that happening. I think the bigger picture on this, though, is preventing major school violence, major activity that could happen.
Cindy, how successful, though, do you think your proposal would be with apparently the mayor and say, similar party city council representatives? Would they back him? Do you think you have much chance of success with this?
Well, I do hope that it'll be extremely successful, because I think what I saw in the newspaper article last night was that there's an admission that the funds are available without having to raise taxes. I don't know why they would absolutely want to add a level of bureaucracy, but I'm hoping that I can urge my fellow city council members and the mayor to come forward with this as a much simpler proposal. We just simply have to put it in the budget because the money's already coming.
Cindy, what about the proposal to add funding for the after-school programs? I can never remember the acronym.
That's never what?
I can't remember the acronym.
CLC.
Oh, Oh, the CLCs? So I haven't seen the proposal still. I can't tell you what's in the agreement or what is exactly in the proposal. I only have the facts that I learned from your article, Nancy, in the Lincoln Journal-Star.
I guess I'd comment on that for a moment and just say, what's most important for school safety is student resource officers. That's the important priority, is school resource officers.
I'd like to, Jane Kinsey with Watchdogs of Lincoln Government. We're concerned about taxpayers, and we're also concerned about efficient government. And in this situation, adding a bureaucracy is not going to keep children safe. That is absolutely ridiculous. You need other kinds of things. The officers are good, a good idea, but in addition to that, you need some kind of building protection, because somebody can walk in and the resource officer can be distracted by something else. So we need metal detectors. The school system doesn't like that because it would traumatize children. I'm sorry, but children know about safety. They know about it. They've flown or they've read about it. They know that there is metal detectors, that there are other times things like that. Now I realize we don't want to go overboard with that either, but it's an addition that's going to make more safety without having bureaucracy. Anybody who thinks bureaucracy is going to be an answer to safety is wrong. So we propose that in addition to changing this, as Ms. Lamb and Mr. Schulte have proposed, that there needs to be some kind of sensible building safety rather than bureaucracy, people sitting in boards and saying what should be done is not the answer for this.
So do you agree that there should not be SROs?
Well, that's fine. I agree. And that was a mistake that was made, taking them out. Of course, in 20 years, we didn't know about mass shootings. But this kind of a solution is a typical bureaucracy that government would propose. That is not the answer. You know, we don't have government officials at airports. We have people on the job who are looking at people individually with safety measures also. Metal detectors, screenings, and so forth.
Thank you. Any more questions?
When would you like to implement this by? How long do you think it would take?
Well, I think that this can be put into this year's budget. We're getting ready to do a biennial budget. We won't be seeing those funds before then. But I think that we can budget it in, and we should, without any increase in taxes to the citizens. And so I'd like to see it be part of the budget talks that we're having beginning in May and June. Thank you very much for coming. Appreciate it.